This is Adam King from Aliens Don't Ring Doorbells, and you're listening to Madness to Creation.
Go ahead, say it.
Hello, what's going on, everybody? This is Maddie with Madness to Creation, and hopefully you guys are doing well on this 5th day of February. And we were very lucky to talk to a legendary guitarist known as Doug Aldrich. Doug Aldrich is the guitarist. He was a guitarist, I should say, for Whitesnake and for Dio, and he is now the lead guitarist for the Dead Daisies. And the Dead Daisies is made up of Glenn Hughes and Dean Castronovo was in the band, but he recently left the Dead Daisies as a press, and the feeling was the feeling was mutual, and I want to wish Dean Castronovo all the best in his future endeavors, and it was just a lovely conversation with probably one of the nicest guys I've talked to. We talked about how their album Holy Ground, which was released January 22nd, was created, and just like the recording process, and one thing that I learned was that how much of a perfectionist that Doug Aldrich is in the studio. And Doug Aldrich also opened up about his anxiety and his depression that he sometimes goes through. And just to let you know, gang, it is perfectly normal to not be okay, especially given the time that we are in right now with the coronavirus pandemic, with the civil and social unrest that's going on with the division in this country and everything like that. I mean, the division has been so bad that I've personally have seen families split up over this. Divorce rates are on the rise. Everything is going on. Plus we also need our therapy, which is in the form of live music. And sadly, the Dead Daisies had to cancel or postpone their tour in Europe and the United Kingdom this February due to the coronavirus pandemic not being under control. And I'm not going to virtue signal or anything like that, but please, please, please take this seriously. Wear a mask, practice your social distancing, and stay home as much as possible. And that's what I've been doing. Like, it's just so important for me to just be creative and all that. And Doug and I get into one absolutely meaningful conversation, and I'm really anxious for you to hear it. And I'm anxious for you to hear the story about how he rose above and all that, and how he copes with his anxiety and depression. You also get to hear about how he writes his songs through his guitar work. So if you're a lover of guitar works and musicianship behind it, this interview is for you too. And if you're also a mental health advocate like we are at Madness Creation, this is for you. Thank you so much for listening to Madness to Creation, where mental health and music merge. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Share this with a friend. I want to get to 200 subscribers, and we're slowly getting there, and we're on our way. And I will do a drawing for a $20 giveaway once we hit 200 subscribers on YouTube. And just tell a friend. And also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram and TikTok. Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok is at Madness to Creation. And Twitter is at MTC Madness with MTC in capital letters. All right, I love you guys, and thank you so much for listening. And without further delay, here's my conversation with Doug Aldrich of the Dead Daisies. Take it away, Doug. Was it different with COVID going on and everything like that? Like, what adjustments have you had to make?
We did this album was recorded actually before COVID, so we didn't have to deal with that. The only thing that COVID did was it basically made us redo the whole year, the whole schedule. So we recorded in November and December of 2019 with the in the south of France. And it's our first record with Glenn Hughes. So we were wanting to kind of go somewhere where we could lock away and focus and work together closely. Like we basically went to the studio, and it was November. It was getting colder. It we went to this studio that had it was basically a chateau. So it had, it was like a whole big, huge mansion with rooms for sleeping and a kitchen with chefs. And so we would basically, eat all our meals together and then go right down the hallway to the studio where we would write and record. And it was a great way for us to bond with Glenn and kind of really focus in on the songs for the record. And so it was pretty much done. It was mixed actually even before the COVID stuff actually hit, so before the lockdowns hit. So it didn't affect us in that way, but we had a lot of plans for 20 that we had to move back till now, so now the record's finally coming out, but we lost, all our tour dates and everything. So we're trying to plan out this year. We've got some dates that look like they'll happen in the summertime, hoping, but it COVID didn't really affect it in terms of the production. And even during COVID, Glenn and I did do some songwriting and stuff. It was a good time to be creative, during this period.
Definitely. And
year.
What have you learned from Glenn as a songwriter?
He's a complete songwriter. He doesn't need anybody to write songs. I think it's still a process of learning. I'm just basically trying to find music that inspires him. That when I present something, and then if he presents something, I want to take it in to the best it can be. Make it put my stamp on it. Hopefully, bringing it to another level. Like for me, when I come up with some music, I present it to the guys, but I'll also be open to, if they want to make some adjustments, or if they think it would be, hey, Doug, why don't you try it like this? Or, maybe any suggestion I'm pretty much open to. That's something that I've learned, is just to it's easier to try something than to go, no, I don't want to do that,
Mm-hmm.
But with Glenn, I think learning, and I haven't learned it yet, but music just flows out of him. It's so fast, and he's got tons of fresh melodies and things that he does that are specific to him. So if I could, if I can improve in any way by working with Glenn, that's what I hope to do.
Yeah, definitely. And another question I had for you is drumming with Dean Castronovo, who's a legendary drummer. What's it like working with him and all that? Like, how does the band intertwine, based upon the different bands you've been in and all that, to create this incredible project called Daisies?
Well, Dean he's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. He's super fun and he's got a lot of energy, extremely talented. Another one of these guys like Glenn that can sing and play amazingly. And as good of a drummer as Dean is, he's just as good of a singer. So he hasn't really had an opportunity to be the lead singer of a band, except for there was a project we did a few, over the past few years. It's over now, but he sang for it, and he did a great job. But I think his strength is his personality, and he's so much energy. It's like he always lifts the vibe when he's around. And I met Dean back I guess it was around 2006. Whitesnake and Journey were doing some shows together, and then we got to be friends right away, and then we'd see each other on tour. A lot of times we'd be on the same festival with Journey, and then eventually Whitesnake and Journey did a headline arena tour in the UK that was really successful. And that was the last time that I played in Whitesnake when he was on tour. But he came into the Dead Daisies and did a great job. And on this album, he's really, he's playing is amazing on the album.
Yeah, what are you most proud of with the Dead Daisies and with this record? When you look back, yeah,
I'm proud of the fact that the Dead Daisies is keeping it fresh, and they've and they if somebody had something that they wanted to do, it was cool with the Dead Daisies to let them do that. And so in that situation, you need to find people to come in, step in, and take the band further. And so they had a great band with Richard Fortus and Dizzy Reed. And when those guys left to go back to GNR, which was obviously it's GNR, so Richard recommended me, and I was like, that's great. I want to I'm going to obviously do my best for the band and to keep it going with the way that Richard was going. But then David Lowy said, I don't want to replace Dizzy because you can't. He's so unique. You can't really replace him. I want to just make it more guitar oriented. And I was like, cool. So we went with that, and we kind of made a bit of a change to the band and a bit of a change to the direction when I got involved. And I think the same thing with Glenn is happening. So I'm really proud to be a part of that. That I'm still here and keeping the vibe of the Daisies since I've been in the band, but also really proud of this record that Glenn was able to come in and shine on it, and we're really all happy working together. So it's good.
definitely. And when you step in the studio, first of all, what is your mindset? And secondly, what do you feel like you excel at as a guitarist? And what's one thing you feel like you want to work on as a guitarist?
Well, I always have things to learn. I need to work on everything. My phrasing, my bending and intonation, my rhythm. There's always room for improvement, and also it's the simple things too. Like when Glenn was he wanted to present a couple songs to the band before we got to France to record it, and I went to his house to help him. And I saw him, he picked up a guitar. We both had guitars, and I was ready to do it. He started playing, and I was like, that sounds really good. I mean, it's the fastest way to do this. Instead of you showing me what your part is, I'd rather just record you and do it like that. So that's what we did, and it worked out really cool because he's got a different feel to him, the way he plays. And so the guitars were a little out of sync or out of tune or something. His ear is very sensitive to tuning. So he was like, you got to go, that's the basic vibe, but go replace them. So, but I wanted to keep the vibe that he had, because there was some little things, just little nuances that made it feel a certain way that I wouldn't play it that way, but I really liked it. So there's always something to learn, and something to work on. As far as the vibe in the studio, Ben Gross gave us it was a perfect situation. As I said, we were isolated, no distractions, and we could really work clearly and get a lot done every day. And Ben, would make sure that everyone was comfortable, and if there was any, anything that we were having trouble with, he would have great suggestions to try and move us forward. And there was one interesting story. There was a song that we were trying to finish. It was Bustle and Flow, and we were having trouble, and it's going on and on for a couple of days. And finally, I was like, that's it, we're done. This song ain't gonna make it. It's just not coming together. And Ben and the management said, but we really love that riff, we really, really like it. And we want to, you guys, come on, go finish it. So I went back to Glenn and David and said, look, they really want us to finish it. And I don't know if it was Glenn or David, or if I don't know who did it. Maybe I did it, but I don't know. But something just clicked, and we went, how about this? And we did these big chords that were very different than the riff. And Glenn immediately sang something. I'm like, that works. What do you think? And he's like, I think we can make that happen. And the song came together after working so hard to try and do it. We needed that little nudge from Ben to and management to go, let's just give it another shot. It's worth it. But the vibe was great in the studio. Very focused, very calm, and Ben also would do like was really helpful bringing stuff out of all of us. And with me, I saw him how he worked with Glenn, and he was just really comfortable. You know, Glenn was really comfortable with him, and with me, he was super mellow. And sometimes I would be like, I'd go, Ben, I'd play something. I go, what do you think? And he'd be like, yeah. I'd be like, what do you mean? Yeah. Like, do you like it? He'd be like, it's all right. You know, I'm like, that's like I think it sounds really good. And he's like, try it again, you know? And I play something and he'd be like, I really like the first part, but after that, kind of lost me. I'm like, what? That was the best solo I've done, or whatever. And you know, and then I'd do it again, and he'd be like, I like the last part. I don't know, nothing else really struck me. And I'm like, dude, you're killing me. I go, and I kind of get a little bit upset with him. I'm like, Ben, I want to start it off like this, and I want it to build, and I want to have some nice melody in there, and I want to wrap it up like this. And then he would just sit there and he'd look at me like, what are you waiting for? Just go do it. You know, quit talking all the time. Just get your ass and do it. And I'd be, all right, you know, and finally I'd do it. And he'd be like, he would just do like, there you go. Okay. Why didn't you do that in the first place? Why have you been screwing around? And I'm like, you know, so he brought things out for me and everybody in different ways. Very masterful in the studio.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And it really shows the chemistry based upon your work and all that. And we have a review. We've received a advance of the album, and Holly really liked it. She's a writer out of the United Kingdom, and what she wrote in there in particular is how she's not a huge fan of guitar solos, but she really likes the guitar solos that you put in there. And she also plays guitar in her band called Disconnected Souls. And what advice would you have for her in order to create that masterful guitar solo or whatnot?
Well, it's always a learning curve. I was going to say something funny, like when you said, what would I recommend to her? And I would say, don't solo. But no, it's always a thing. I think the most important thing for me when I'm trying to do a solo is not just to force anything or try to, like, a lot of times it'll come to doing solos and they'll forward the tape or the session right to a few bars before the solo. And then it's like, okay, go ahead and play. That does not work for me. What I need to do is I need to hear the song from the very beginning all the way through. And it really helps, obviously, if there's a vocal melody already, or at least a scratch vocal. So I can get an idea of how the energy flow is and how the melody's going up and down. And when it gets to the solo, it becomes apparent, like, okay, this particular solo maybe would sound best if I carry on with where the vocal left off and kept the melody going and then build from there. That's a good way to do it, you know, because you don't want to like have a melody that's really flowing and beautiful and then all of a sudden come into this really erratic shredding or something. And at the same time, you don't want to have a song that's got high energy and is really, you know, aggressive and kicking ass, and then come in with the solo that's just like, it's got to fit, you know, it's got to make sense for the song. So I would say to listen to the song down and without even playing, just listen to it and maybe listen to the solo section and imagine, like, if you can hear something in your head. A lot of times when I'm listening to it, I'll grab my phone, and if I get an idea, I'll hum it into the phone while the song's playing, so that way I can listen back and figure it out on guitar, you know.
Really good idea.
It helps because sometimes these ideas come to your head and you sing it once or in your head, maybe you sing it and it's not exactly right, but at least it's something for you to start with. And it's like for songs like title track Holy Ground, I didn't know what to play. I listened to the whole song and then it came out of this fast riff into another fast riff in a different key, and I was like, I really didn't know. I tried a few things, and again, you know, Ben didn't say much, and I was just like, what the hell? So I just went for it. I kept going for it, and I did this one that you hear on the record, and I was like, and I had messed up the end of it, So I knew I had to fix that, but I was like, nah, that sucked. Let's try another one. He goes, whoa, 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 whoa. Wait a minute. Listen to that. That was pretty cool, man. I go, dude, that's really sloppy. And he goes, but it's got a vibe. It's got a vibe. And I go, well, look at the end. He goes, well, you can fix that, you know? So I did. So I punched in the last, it was 4 bars or something, or 2 bars. I think it was like the last 2 bars. So I went out of key. I hit the wrong fret or bent wrong. I remember something sounded out of key. So I just fixed that. But the original solo that I played in one take just had a good vibe to it. It wasn't perfect. Didn't have most cleanest entry in, but I can see where after I stepped back, and I could see what he meant. It's good to have people around that you trust. It's good to have people that that care about you, so that they can tell you the truth, you know, and go, that's crap, or like, that's kick ass, and you're going, really? Like, yeah, that's really good. And then there's a song called Come Alive where I when I was working on the song, when I was working on the music, I immediately had a melody in mind for the solo, not knowing if it would work with what Glenn put, because he hadn't sang on it yet. But in the end, it did work with what he did, and I was able to start the song off with that melody the way I heard it. But then I got halfway through and I was trying to do something else, and I thought it was cool, but I wasn't really going anywhere. Right, it wasn't lifting enough. And I said, guys, I need a little help. I don't know what to do here. This is like, melody starts off good, but everything I do after that doesn't seem to work. And Glenn's management, his name's Jimmy, came in, and Jimmy said, well, you know, that melody is really good. Why don't you just repeat it? I'm like, damn it. Why didn't I think of that? Yeah, okay. So I said, what do you think? Repeat it in the same spot or go up an octave higher? He goes, go up. That sounds good, you know? So problem solved. It's good to have people around, you know, you can't be worried about, this album is more about vibe than technique, I think. You know, that was kind of like the thing that everyone responded to more than some really, I mean, there's a few moments where there's some technique going on, but, you know, a fast run here or there, I'll sneak it in, you know, but the solo's got to say something and have a vibe first.
Definitely. And I was gonna say, you guys really excel at that part, so kudos to you guys. And we also cover mental health awareness at Madness to Creation, because our goal is to end the stigma when it comes to talking about mental health. And I just had a couple questions for you in regards to that. And
Yeah, of course.
what would you say is the soundtrack to your life? Whether it's a song, an album, a band, just something that gets you through.
Well, absolutely, music in general is Glenn I can hear him. I just heard Glenn in my ear saying music is the healer, or somebody which says that. It reminds me of something Glenn would say, but there's no, even sometimes when you don't think of it, or you don't expect it to help, if you actually take the time to just put on a station that maybe you don't even know what's going to be on there, or flip around on the dial and internet radio, you'll find something that suits my mood right there. That's what I want, you know, something mellow. Or if you're really needing to up your energy, like maybe you feel like you should be exercising more and you should work out more, but you've got no energy and you're just not feeling it. And it's just like, I'll stand up and I'll get my headphones on and I'll crank some aggressive, you know, for me, for running purposes, I loved running to Van Halen. Something about it. I put on the Fair Warning album. It does it. I can hear that album and immediately I want to run, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
So it's like, for different moods, there's always something. But if there's one band that I had to pick that got me through the most, it would be Led Zeppelin.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What's your favorite Led Zeppelin song or album?
Song
or
There's
album?
no way I can't pick one song, but I would say album wise, I would probably say, Physical Graffiti is probably overall my favorite, because covers it all, you know, and it's got a bunch of different moods from the acoustic stuff to the heavy duty stuff, and it's got some kind of dark horse tracks that I really love, you know, that are like Into the Light is such a, you know, nobody ever talks about it. I don't even know if they might have played it a couple times maybe, but it's such a vibey song, and it's great for driving. My favorite Zeppelin album is Presence. I used to do a lot of driving when I was in Whitesnake. I'd drive back and forth from Los Angeles to Lake Tahoe, where David lived, where he would come to me. But when I would go up there, Presence, I listened to it every time. I would listen to that for part of the way. And then, you know, I think something else. It's a little off topic, but I think talk radio is really helpful during
absolutely
the beginning of this pandemic. You know, of course, I love music for morning or relaxing or, like I said, running. But then there's times when my mind just couldn't stop thinking, and you know, about what was happening, what was gonna happen, and I found it was just a silly thing, but it was a show on Sirius XM called Volume. It's a talk radio show, and Eddie Trunk has a show on there, and it was just really, it helped me keep my mind busy. And sorry, my dog is jumping on me trying to
it's all good.
Yeah, so so then I started that, and then we were getting ready for these elections. I started listening to news radio, like political radio, trying to educate myself, because I really, you know, didn't know much. I mean, I know things that I liked about certain candidates and stuff, but I didn't know, you know, I wanted to know more about the process and stuff. So that was helpful. I just think listening to the radio and finding those albums that you love helps. But sometimes if you don't know what to listen to, just dial the radio until you find something, you know. And what I mean by radio is internet radio, because there's so many channels and so much stuff.
Oh, definitely. And a couple more questions I had for you. One of the questions I had is based upon mental health awareness. Tell me about a time where it was tough for you or difficult for you, and how did you rise above from that?
There's been so many times. I mean, there's been times when, you know, losing a family member it's something that happens sometimes, where, you know, you lose a family member, and it's very close to your heart, or somebody that, you know, lost somebody and it's very close, and you can see them kind of spiraling a little bit, and you need to what helped me would be a friend or a loved one that would take me for a walk and just kind of help me go, like, it's going to be okay. I know it sucks right now, but it's going to be okay. You got to just keep taking it. You got to keep taking a step forward. You got to keep breathing. You got to keep, you know, these things in life that bring us down, they do happen, and you got to find a way to you have to realize that change is inevitable, and it will change. And there's been times when things happen to me that I was really bummed out about. Nothing about music, more about, you know, personal relationships with friends or whatever. And you just gotta, I would just go, okay, I'm having a bad run right now. I'm gonna just say this, like, keep it coming, bring it on. As long as you're kicking my ass, let's just do a royal kick straight in the nuts, you know.
Right.
Give it to me, because it's like, I actually don't think I can get much lower. So why don't you try and, you know, whoever's up there, bring it. I'm going to get through this. I'm at rock bottom, so there's nowhere else to go but up.
Mm-hmm.
And that, with little by little saying, you know, okay, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. It has to. It helps. And the other thing that I would say for sure is exercise. Forcing yourself to get your blood moving, go for a walk, go for a bike ride. And you can't go to the gym right now really, but exercising in any way helps. What happens is when people get bummed out is that their serotonin levels in their brain get off. And it can happen from a trauma. It can happen like if you go through a really traumatic thing of losing somebody, or a breakup with your girlfriend, or a pet dies. It's a traumatic thing for people, and it messes up your chemicals in your brain, and they get out of whack, and your serotonin levels go down and other levels go up, and you get feeling out of balance, and it's not good. So there's a couple ways you can treat that. Obviously, what I'm saying is absolutely helpful is the natural thing is to exercise, get your endorphins going, so you get your blood going, and if it's hard to start it, but once you do it, it gets easier every time. It's just like when you're trying to get in shape. It's the beginning is hard, even for anybody. It's like, but you think about like I look at people for inspiration, like Kobe Bryant. Like Kobe Bryant, it would wake up at 4 a.m. and go to the gym and do all this stuff, and they're like so focused. Now everybody can't do that, but exercising and what he did made his brain more focused, and made him more successful in terms of like nothing was going to stop him. Always it was like that's it. But so the other option when you go through these things, and it's happened in the past for me, where something happened that was excruciatingly painful, and so I went to the doctor and I go, look, I'm having a hard time getting out of this thing. I need a little help. And he put me on and this is not for everybody, you got to talk to your doctor, but he put me on a really mild antidepressant, and he goes, it's going to take a couple of weeks for it to kick in, but man, it helped it's chemically helped balance out my serotonin levels. And then he goes, I go, how long am I going to have to do this? He goes, it depends for the person, but it could be anywhere from 2 months to 6 months, and you're gonna feel better. He goes, you're not gonna feel it happening, but it's just life is gonna be easier. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, it was a couple months, and I started feeling better. I started feeling more positive. I got some energy to get back to training and all that stuff. And then I said, so what do I do? And he goes, just got to slowly get off of it now. Your levels are back fixed, and you're training, so you're positive, and you're working, but you can taper off and get off that substance. And that's what I did. And I've recommended that to people that I love and other people when they were in times where they couldn't handle it. When you're out of control, you feel helpless, and it's your brain can't keep up with everything. So sometimes you got to talk to the doctor.
I really appreciate you sharing that with me and all that. So thank you so much. And I was going to say, do you feel like that it's impacted your music in a positive way when you got the antidepressant and all that? Like, were you able to focus more? Or?
I was actually, it's so subtle, it's like it's not like you take an aspirin and your headache goes away. It's like a really subtle thing, but it just balances the chemicals in your brain. There's so many things I've done that were on the opposite. There was a situation where I used to smoke heavily, and I couldn't stop, and I wanted to stop. I didn't want to be smoked. I was getting ready to have my a baby in the house, and I didn't want to be smoking. So I couldn't quit really. In fact, I did quit one time, and then I started to gain a little bit of weight, and was coming up on a tour, and I was like, oh man. And then I was around some people that were smoking, and I was like, okay, I'm going to smoke. And then I lost that weight again. But eventually I decided I really don't want to carry around cigarettes for the rest of my life. It's just not what I want to do. And I had heard about this thing called Chantix, and Chantix is a hardcore drug that blocks in your brain the receptors that make you want to smoke. And like literally, you could try the patch. It works for some people. The gum works for some people. It wasn't working for me. But this pill, you take this pill, and all of a sudden, you could look at a cigarette and it was like you didn't need it, didn't want it. But the side effect to that pill is that it just kind of makes you dark, And so I was on that pill, and I was just edgy. I mean, I was maybe having physical withdrawals, but not mental withdrawals from cigarettes. And I was edgy, and I was getting nightmares sometimes. It's part of the side effects of that drug.
Wow.
I don't even know if they still make that drug, but it worked. But when I was taking full dose, I started getting these nightmares that were really vivid. And I wake up going, oh my God, I'm thankful that was a nightmare. It was so real. So I cut the dosage in half, and I stayed off the cigarettes. And then as soon as I felt I was ready, I got off that medicine, because it kind of was putting a dark thing in my mind, that. So that's the opposite. But the main thing is to know that people care about you, and you have responsibility to those people to take care of yourself. The worst thing, when you start feeling like you're out of control, or there's something going on and you don't feel right, you're feeling bummed out, for some people they cry or whatever, you gotta talk to somebody that you trust, and you gotta remember that no matter what, it's going to get better. Because it will. If you work on it and you put your mind to it, it will get better.
Definitely, and I just want to tell my listeners and readers that it always gets better, and no matter what you're going through, and even if you feel rock bottom, you can rise above the situation that you're in, whether it's substance abuse or whether it's depression or anything like that. So,
any of those things, you got to talk to people. You got to talk to your family. You got to talk to somebody and go, look, I'm not feeling right. There's some of the best things that have come out of is therapy too, is really helpful.
Definitely.
Because there's sometimes you're in relationships with people at work, or your romantic relationship, whatever, and you can't navigate it. You need somebody on the outside that's not going to make it worse. You need somebody on the outside that's going to basically help you to manage the situation. Even if you say like you're at work and you're getting beat up at work, and it's just you're not happy there, and you don't know what to do, and you're like lost, and it's getting worse and worse and worse, and it's bumming you out. If you could find yourself a therapist, so somebody that you can talk to, and it could be a friend, it could be a family member, but a therapist has no how do they say it? There's no dog in the race. There's they don't mind. They're going to give you an honest, helpful answer of this is how you can navigate that problem at work. And instead of trying to change that person that's upsetting you, you've got to learn the tools to change yourself so that it doesn't bother you anymore. Because if you let something bother you, it's only going to hurt you. It doesn't hurt the other person. So you got to find a way to be able to manage those situations. That's just one, but I think therapy is a good thing. And you don't have to. Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. And Doug, I know we've covered a lot of ground here. And what else would you like?
It's holy ground. It's holy ground. It's about the album. It's like, this is the thing. Glenn's lyrics are really spiritually cool, and so
awesome.
I want everybody to check out the album for Glenn's lyrics alone, because he leaves a lot of room for interpretation for what the song's about. So the title track, Holy Ground, is I don't know what he wrote it about. I never asked him, but I know what it means to me. It's like my soul and my family, that's my holy ground. So for somebody else, they might be environmentalists, and their holy ground is planet Earth, and we got to take care of it before it's too late. Or there might be this period that we're in is holy ground, even though it's been rough this last year. We learned some things out of it, and there's been some good things that came of the year. Even though a lot of it was horrible, there's always a little bit of silver lining. And so the Holy Ground is a learning experience or something, you know. So it's listen to the album for the lyrics. They're very uplifting, and I wish everybody a super safe and healthy, mentally healthy, prosperous new year for 21, and hopefully see you guys soon so we can play some music together.
Yeah, absolutely. And are you guys, before you go, are you guys planning like any live streams or anything like that, or is there anything else that you would like to plug in regards to the album?
Well, just you know, we're all dedicated to this album to get it out there and support it, because we really had a great time making it, and hopefully people agree and like it. It's got a flow to it. It's really, when you listen to it from top to bottom, it really has got a good flow. Takes you into some different directions, but it's all cohesive, if that can make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got a chance to play in rehearsal in Los Angeles in like October. We had a week where we could go through all the songs and play them live again. We cut them live, but you know, then after we did the final touches and everything, they changed a little bit. So we went in the studio and played them, and it was amazing. So we can't wait for people to see this new show that we've got planned. And but yeah, basically that's the thing we're promoting right now, and we're dedicated to it. Like there's no other projects that we're doing. This is very, very much our full-time gig right now.
That's awesome, Doug. And I want to thank you so much for taking the time to discuss mental health and your music with Madness to Creation. And cheers to you, man. And this was an awesome conversation.
Thanks, brother. Thanks, Maddie. I appreciate it. And you take it easy, bro. And thanks to all your listeners and everybody. Stay safe, and look forward to seeing you guys on the road as soon as possible.
Yes, and please come to Iowa. I would love to buy a ticket and come out to the show. So
Would love that, man. It's been a while. I mean, it's definitely beautiful country, and it's been a long time since I'm trying to think if it was Whitesnake. Maybe we played there last, but that was like probably 10 years ago, maybe. So it's been too long. Got to go back.
definitely. Well, cheers to you, Doug.
Thanks, buddy. You too. All the best, man. You take it easy.
Yeah, take it easy.
All right. See you.
See you
Bye,
later.
guys.